Distinguished audience, the President of the State of Israel, Prime Minister and his spouse, Speaker of the Knesset and his spouse, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and his spouse enter accompanied by the chairperson of the Yad Vashem Council and the chairperson of the Yad Vashem Board. The audience is requested to stand up.
המשמר יחטיף את נשקו. החטף, שק. המשמר ידגל את נשקו. דגל, שק. המשמר יחטיף את נשקו. החטף, שק.
כבוד נשיא המדינה,
Your Excellence, President of the State of Israel, Prime Minister and his wife, Speaker of the Knesset and his spouse, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and his spouse, Chief Rabbis to Israel, Chairperson of the Yad Vashem Council, Chairperson of the Yad Vashem Board, Chairperson of the Center for Organizations of Holocaust Survivors in Israel, Holocaust survivors in Israel and overseas, members of the families of the righteous among the nations, distinguished guests. To open the Holocaust and Martyrs Remembrance Day, we shall lower the national flag to half-mast.
המשמר ידגל את נשקו. דגל, שק. המשמר יחטיף את נשקו. החטף, שק.
To light the remembrance torch, I'm honored to call upon the chairperson of the Yad Vashem Board, Mr. Avner Shalev.
המשמר ידגל את נשקו. דגל, שק.
Please sit down.
המשמר יחטיף את נשקו. החטף, שק. המשמר יציג את נשקו. הצג, שק. המשמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
My father wished to see the pistol that he bought for me in exchange for some gold coins before I joined the Partisans. I extended the pistol to my father. My father caressed the pistol, and tears went rolling down his eyes. My youngest brother, he too caressed that pistol with awe in his eyes. My father embraced me and kissed me, and I embraced him and I kissed him too. I still feel that I'm engulfed by my father's embrace, and I shall be engulfed in my father's embrace until my last day on this planet. Daddy, I do feel your embrace and your kiss upon my right cheek. My Father has commanded, if you do not see each other again, and you shall remain alive, you shall say Kaddish after us on the day I married your mother. Remember, it is the 18th day of the month of Elul. My brother said to me, you shall take our revenge, you shall fight, and you shall remain alive. The actor Yishai Golan read from the testimony of Chaim Basok, the late partisan. This year we're marking the defiant and rebellion during the time of the Holocaust, marking the 70th anniversary of the Ghetto Warsaw Uprising. The uprising in defiance was expressed in the ghettos, the camps, and everywhere where there were Jewish people escaping to hideouts, mutual help, studying and creating and observing the commandments. All these were attempts to rebel and defy and change the terrible reality forced by the Nazis on the Jews. The resistance actions took place in the ghettos and the camps, in the partisan groups and the undergrounds in Eastern Europe and in Western Europe as well. This is an especially glorious chapter of heroism that was registered on the 19th of April 1943 upon the breakout of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. The fighting of the Jewish rebels lasted for 1 month against all odds, as well as the rebellions of the inmates in the death camps of Treblinka and Sobibor and the Sonderkommando uprising in Auschwitz were all shows of bravery and tremendous valor. The President of the State of Israel, Mr. Shimon Peres.
משמר יעבור לדום. משמר, דום. משמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
Dear friends, Holocaust survivors, Prime Minister and his spouse, Speaker of the Knesset and his spouse, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and his wife, Chief Rabbis, Rabbi Shlomo Amar and Rabbi Yonah Metzger,
our dear friend, Prime Minister Tony Blair, our dear friend, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, John Baird.
Chairperson of the Yad Vashem Council, Rabbi Israel Lau, Righteous Among the Nations, Chairperson of Yad Vashem Board of Ner Shalev, distinguished audience. The Holocaust will not sink and be swallowed in the agape mouth of history. It is here with us, ablaze, scorching and real. It echoes when we tread the cobbled streets in the ghettos. It hovers like ghosts in the camp barracks. It screams from the talith, from the hairs, the shoes, which remained as silent testimony to the atrocity. It whispers from the tears that dried out before parting. It is reflected from the pictures of babies in the arms of their mothers. The roaring murder trains that died out still deafens our ears. The smoke of the ovens is dissipated, but does not disappear in the heavens above us. Amongst us, survivors are walking, in whose daily lives the Holocaust and its horrors are bubbling. Their blood rumbles in ours. Their heroism is stamped on every step and every trail we take in our lives. Never has such atrocity taken place upon the face of this earth. Nothing can distance us from the darkest days ever known to mankind. 74 years that passed are more a biography than a history. Millions of names are still missing, of parents and children of an entire Jewish communities that were exterminated and faded to dust. Nothing can replace culture, nothing can replace values, supreme talents, which have gone forever. They are an open wound in our history. We shall never stop looking for every bit of information, every name which remained unidentified, every blurred photo that remained blurred. 1/3 of our nation, 6 million that were murdered for no reason. We remained an amputated nations. The Jewish people numbers today less than what it was on the eve of World War II. We have lessened in number, but not in spirit. We strive full force to fill up that gap, physically as well as spiritually, to emerge from the ashes, to create ex nihilo, to build out of grief, to weave a new existence, and to never tire of the attempt to strive for the repair of the world. The Holocaust is orphanhood that knows no consolation and a moral responsibility which knows no compromise. It does not allow us, the Jewish people, to turn a blind eye, and it must forever serve as a warning signal for the entire family of man. The map of Europe is still scattered with spots of despicable anti-Semitism. Racism, which broke loose on its soil in the previous century, pulled it down to the lowest of lows, and the murderous spirit that rose from its womb took its toll on Europe as well. Shamefully, many have not learned the lesson. Young skinheads, ostensible scientists mummified in imaginable suits. Yes, there still exist Holocaust forgetters as well as Holocaust deniers. Not all the volcanoes are out. Crises are exploited yet again to breed Nazi parties. Ridiculous, perhaps, but dangerous still. Hideous anti-Semitic caricatures are still being published on behalf of the freedom of speech, as it were. The quest for justice and freedom has not ended yet. When I hear the 4 words, "Let my people go," I feel again and again that the exodus from the house of bondage started by our nation has not come to an end yet, and it never will. We must continue in it until all form of slavery is annihilated in every place and in every situation, until the spirit of freedom eradicates the racist infection and clear away the smelting evil. The enlightened world must ask itself, how can it so happen that such a short while after the crematoria were put out, after the terrible toll of bloodshed paid by the Allies in their heroic efforts to overpower the Nazi Satan, there can still be a leadership like that of the Iranians, speaking in public to deny the Holocaust and threaten with the Holocaust. Those who ignore a threat of Holocaust to one nation must know that threatening one means threatening all nations without any exception. The Jewish people is small in size, but a large nation in spirit. Its spirit cannot be burnt in the ovens of fire. From the Holocaust, a spiritual and a national revival emerged. We have been cut off, but we have established a state of our own. We have lost assets, but we have preserved our values. We have returned to our ancient homeland. We have revived our ethical heritage. We have become independent again. We have returned to create, to educate, and to hope. We have established a defensive force that is capable of contending with new dangers, old and new. The IDF, the Israel Defense Force that was established as a response to the attempt to annihilate the Jewish state, which has only been born, is also the right lesson taken from the atrocities of the Holocaust. It is fed by the Jewish heroism in the Holocaust in terrible conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, this time the Remembrance Day of Heroism is also the 70th anniversary for the outbreak of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Never has there been such a rebellion. They were few, and their bravery remained a model to many from now till eternity. Today we salute their valor with our hoisted flags, our national hoisted flags, waving in the spirit, in the free wind. These are flags of pride, not only of grief, because a straight line connects the shows of resistance in the ghettos, the camps and the woods, and the revival and heroism of the State of Israel. It is a line of human dignity, of renewed independence, of mutual responsibility. It is a line of Kiddush Hashem. As a ray of hope that never died out, not even in the direst of distress, the ghetto rebels strove for life, even when circumstances cried out nothing but despair. A few days ago, Peretz Hochman passed away. Peretz Hochman, of blessed memory, the tiny cigarette seller that became a great hero, a legendary hero. Peretz Hochman returned home to Israel and took part in the wars of Israel with the very same brave heart that so characterized him throughout his life. He died a few days ago, before he was able to be standing here with us right now, this evening, on this stage, and light a torch. His flame has become orphaned, but its light will continue to illuminate. Relating the brave feats of the heroes is not only a way of doing justice with their valor, it is an existential need. It is our need, every one of us, to all of us as a nation. Israel praised heroism, but not always did it pay enough respect to the heroes themselves. Well, the time has come to do that. Not always did we lend an attentive ear to their heartbeat, to their food, to their health, Now is the time to make amends, and I was very happy to hear that this is being done. The history of the Holocaust is not just a lesson from the past, it is a guide to the perplexed for the future, so that we know how to defend ourselves faced with dangers and to intercept every one of them well in advance, so that we can be self-reliant and keep our ethical heritage that weathered the most impossible situations, that we can be friends with friends, and together with them labor on fostering a better future for man, for every nation, so that we can guarantee that mankind never again loses its humanity. We shall make sure that every individual will have the equal right to be different, different and equal, equal and different. We shall never give up. We shall never despair, for we have been decreed, "Thou shalt not fear, O Jacob, my servant. The Lord will give strength unto his people." Prime Minister Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu.
יעבור לדום. משמר, דום. משמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
נשיא המדינה,
President of the State of Israel,
שמעון פרס,
Shimon Peres,
מכובדנו,
Speaker of the Knesset, Member of the Knesset Yudi Edelstein and his wife, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Asher Grunis and his wife,
our two great friends of Israel, former Prime Minister of Britain Tony Blair and Canada's Foreign Minister, Minister Baird,
Chief Rabbi to Israel, the Rishon LeZion, Rabbi Shlomo Amar, Chief Rabbi, Rabbi Yonah Metzger, ministers, members of Knesset, Commissioner of Police, Yochanan Danino, the Attorney General, Yehuda Weinstein, Chairperson of the Yad Vashem Board, the Yad Vashem Council, Rabbi Israel Meir Lau, Chairperson of the Yad Vashem Board of Ner Shalev, the Mayor of the City of Jerusalem, Nir Barkat, Representative of the Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador of Cameroon to Israel, righteous among the nations, and their family members, soldiers, commanders of the IDF, policemen, students, teenagers, distinguished audience. And above all, Holocaust survivors who are with us today, and most of all, the torchlighters. Recently, we have witnessed atrocious events of violence against the elderly, and amongst them, old people who are Holocaust survivors. There's nothing that runs more counter to the Jewish heritage, the values of our country, and basic human ethics. We cannot tolerate that. And it is incumbent upon me to use all that the State of Israel and the government of the State of Israel has in order to punish very severely all those offenders. And so I instructed. We are committed to guarantee the dignity and the honor of our elderly citizens in particular, and we have a special commitment to see to the well-being of the Holocaust survivors. We have added today in the government resources for the well-being of the Holocaust survivors by giving them more help for their medical needs, and we shall add even more and very, very willingly. Holocaust survivors are the symbol of revival. They are the ones who have weathered all the atrocities of the Holocaust, and they are worthy of living for the rest of their lives at rest and in peace. Just like the prophet Zechariah said, old men and women shall sit in the streets of Jerusalem, each holding their cane in their hands, enjoying ripe old age, in safety and in honor and dignity. Citizens of the State of Israel, every generation we're faced with enemies, and every generation a person must see himself as if he or she herself survived the Holocaust and established the State of Israel. Every generation, it is incumbent upon us to guarantee and secure a situation in which there will be no other Holocaust. And in the generation of the Holocaust, we could not prevent that destruction. Many could not identify the danger in time, and once they did, it was too late. The trap has been set, and it has been closed as well. The gates of the land were closed against those Jewish refugees, just like were the gates of many, if not all, other countries, including the most enlightened of nations. From here, it was a very easy way to take and to make sure that our brothers and sisters, the 6 millions, would be exterminated. The hatred of Jews that reached its peak in Nazi Germany, the weakness of the Jews in exile, in the diaspora, and the helplessness of all the other nations, all those three factors joined together and brought the catastrophe of the Holocaust. And still, in the depth of darkness, there took place a major turning point in the Jewish fate. In the death camps, in the ghettos, in the Warsaw Ghetto, after which this compound is called, Jewish history has changed. It is there that once again the Jewish resistance stood on its feet. This is where it was rediscovered, that spirit of the Maccabites. This is where once again the flag of uprising and rebellion was hoisted from the lowest of lows. They recruited young people, young Jewish people that showed their bravery and valor and fought back against the Nazi enemy. The fact that they were defeated in that battle, that fact did not diminish the intensity and the greatness of their feats. And that major revolution that they have actually introduced to the history of our people, from victims, from helpless victims, they turned those defenders of the ghetto to fearless fighters. Fearless fighters that riveted the German army for nearly 1 month. Few against the many. Pistols fighting against tanks. Nearly a whole month. It is the spirit of the Maccabites indeed. And 5 years later, with the very same spirit, few against the many, the IDF soldiers defeated, and amongst them many Holocaust survivors, the Arab armies that came to destroy the young state of Israel. And with it, the survivors of the terrible Holocaust. The Jewish revival is tied in its umbilical cord to the ability and the willingness of Jews to struggle with all their might against those who wish to annihilate them. The ability and the willingness to defend ourselves is the one that made it possible to establish the Zionist enterprise, and it is the one that secures the continuation of our existence and our future. A few days ago, I parted from a very young lieutenant colonel who served in the military secretariat in the Prime Minister's office. He's going down to the Negev now in order to train in the cadet school the commanders of the future of the IDF. In the ceremony in which we parted from him, he truly moved me when he told us about his grandmother, Hannah. Hannah is an Auschwitz Holocaust survivor, and the Nazis have actually tattooed on the arm of Hannah a number that ended with the digits 7 and 8. And fate so wanted that the number of the ID card that Hannah received in the State of Israel also ended with the numbers 7, 8. The death number that Hannah received in the death camp of Auschwitz is the life number she received from the State of Israel. Hannah, who watches us now, has survived this Nazi hell, the Nazi inferno, and immigrated to the land of Israel. Her husband fought in the War of Independence, and today her grandson, an officer in the Israel Defense Forces, is training the future commanders of the State of Israel, whose task it is to guarantee that we shall live here forever. In that terrible inferno of the Holocaust, 6 million Jews found their death. In the State of Israel, for the first time since the establishment of the state, we have more than 6 million Jews. You, the residents, citizens of the State of Israel, you are the expression of our victory. From the depth of the Holocaust, we have climbed up to the peak of Zion. From the lowest of lows, we have climbed to the highest of mountains. It is our victory. It is our consolation. And it also is the source of our pride. And it is our pride of the State of Israel that is a lighthouse of enlightenment, of progress, of freedom. In the darkness that prevails over large areas around us. And we should only look around us and see. We can see nations and peoples who are fighting for the right to live. And the most basic of human rights. We only should look around us to understand the extent of the achievement of the State of Israel. It is our pride in the great enterprise that we have all been contributing to in the past 70 years, in the great light that emerges from Zion. It is a light to the people of Israel. It is a light to the nations. It is a light of progress, of prosperity. It is a light of a people that seeks peace. I am proud to be the Prime Minister of this nation. However, there are those who seek to put out this light. Iran declares in public about its intention to destroy and annihilate the State of Israel, and it does all it can to achieve this goal. The Zionists, and I now quote religious clergy in Iran, the Zionists, they say, are microbes and bacteria. The Jews, and I quote, these are polluted people who disperse disease. It is not being said only back then. It is being said today. Israel, says the ruler of Iran, is a cancerous growth, a tumor that we should uproot and pull out of the Middle East. This murderous hatred toward the Jews that accompanies the history of our nation. This has not disappeared from the world. It has been replaced with murderous hatred against the state of the Jews. What has changed since the Holocaust is our resolve and our ability to defend ourselves with our own strength and power. We appreciate the attempts and efforts of the international community to put a stop to the nuclear program of Iran. However, in no stage will we deposit our fate in the hands of others, neither in the hands of the best of our friends. I am certain of the ability of the State of Israel, and I have full faith in the IDF, and I believe in you, citizens of the State of Israel. We are stronger today than ever before, and we shall rise to every challenge that is put before us, even the most difficult challenges of all. Our strength is immense. 2 weeks ago, from this mountain, our friend, Rabbi Lau, spoke to us as a child. He survived the death camps. He told us about a very moving meeting that he had last year with an American former general. This American general, who was one of the soldiers who liberated the death camps, said to Rabbi Lau, when tears went rolling down his eyes, "I ask your forgiveness," he said. "We have come too late." The meaning, the deepest of meaning, of the establishment of the State of Israel is but one. We shall never again reach that situation in which it will be too late. We shall never again be faced with this helplessness when we wish to defend ourselves against those who wish to annihilate us. The Declaration of Independence from 65 years ago has given us a state and has given us the ability, the independent ability, to make the necessary decisions to guarantee our future here. We shall know how to act in order to defend ourselves in this place and on this day. I oblige, never again will there be another Holocaust. The torch lighting ceremony. The 6 torches will be lit in memory of the 6 millions, our brothers and sisters who were murdered by the hands of the Nazi Germans and their accomplices, and in honor of the survivors who have rehabilitated their lives and built their homes and became key partners in the preservation of the memory of the Holocaust and its inculcation to future generations. The torchlighters will be accompanied by their family members. The first torch was supposed to be lit by Peretz Hochman, born in Warsaw, who passed away, as previously said, only a few days ago. His widow, Sima Hochman, will light the torch in his stead. When Zenik was on the left and I was on the right, they called me Peretz at home, but then they called me Pavel, lest they understand that we're Jews. My dad was Benjamin, and Daddy said, "Children, do not fear. I have a feeling that you will remain alive." And that chased us throughout the life. We knew that we should remain alive. When we were in the ghetto, we would go out to get various things from the Polish side. Now, what could we do? An idea came up of that Polish song that he's singing. I stood up in the middle of the yard and I started singing. They started throwing money that was covered in paper, and they gave us a bit of soup and a few slices of bread, and I didn't eat the bread. So she asked me, why aren't you eating the bread? And I said that we have a sick mother, and for weeks she hadn't eaten anything, so we must bring her the bread. And then we stopped going to the ghetto because we had nothing to go to the ghetto for. I was on the Aryan side, and many Poles were there to see how the ghetto was burning, and there were those who said that the Jews are even more heroes than we are. We're simply sitting, twiddling our thumbs, and these Jews are fighting against the Germans. After we sang and sang and sang, and we would live on that and make our living on that. A friend of ours said that in the three-cross square there are children selling cigarettes. We said that he's just imagining it. How come there are no longer any Jews left? And he said, yes, you should go there and we shall help you. And we had a great urge to help one another. Everyone had the very same fate. I was 16 years old when the Polish uprising broke up, and I, with my brother, decided to participate in the uprising. There were various actions, very dangerous ones, and they needed volunteers. And I said, what have I got to lose? I can get killed, but I can some of them would be killed along with me as well. I arrived to Eretz Israel in June 1946. Oh, this is ours. You are fighting for your own independence. I have 6 sons. This is a well-united family, and I have a lot of pleasure and satisfaction with that. May the torch be lit.
משמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
The second torch would be lit by Otto Dov Peresburger, born in Terneva, Czechoslovakia. It was on April 14th, 1942, from the train that was from Auschwitz. I was one of the first Jews in Auschwitz. We were tattooed on the chest, not on the arm. That is my number. That was the stamp made with nails. They actually pushed this full force with their hand into my flesh, and they smeared it with color. We built Birkenau. That was laborious, hard work. My father was called Geza Pressburger, and 2 weeks later I remember that he could not go to work anymore. Myself and my brother dragged him, but he couldn't stand on his feet anymore, and he died in our arms. Out of all the 650 people that we came, only 4 of us remained alive. I said, I must survive this. I was also very lucky and fortunate. In 1944, I could hardly walk, and all of a sudden I heard, Otto, Otto. And I looked, that was a friend from home, a friend who studied with me in school. And she said, what's wrong with you? And I said, Yolanka, I work in construction, and I no longer have the strength I need to work. And she said, I'll set a job for you. And the following day they said, okay, you're this and this number, you're going to be a wagon driver. And this is why I remained alive. And I said, I'm not going to another camp again. So the train started slowing down, and I pushed myself outside, and I rolled outside, and I lifted my head. 15 meters away from me, another person lifted his head, and he said, I saw you jumping, and I jumped as well. We started walking. We entered a village, and we entered a house where a Gentile was, and he asked us, who are we? And he said, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay with me. In the morning, he prepared 2 barrels with hot water. After 3 years, for the first time, I took a bath with hot water. I thought I was in paradise. On the 6th of May, the war ended, and I said to them goodbye, and I'm going to Palestine. In 1950, I married with my wife, Bracha, and 2 sons were born and 5 grandchildren. May the torch be lit.
משמר דום. משמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
The 3rd torch would be lit by Dina Osover of Pikholz, born in Stry, Ukraine. It was a 3rd action, and they deported the people to Belzec, and I was on that train. And I became hysterical because it was hell. It was pure hell. And I said to my father, I do not want them to kill me. I will do it myself. And father told me in Yiddish, go, my child. Maybe you shall survive that hell. You'll be the only one that will survive. I screamed in the death camp, and I started screaming, and I was, all puffed up, and I was all full of blood, and gradually, slowly, I walked and I followed the traces of the train, and I returned to where we lived, to my aunt. I gave her a lot of trouble. I didn't want to leave. Why would I remain and live alone on my own? So my uncle Yosef Heller went to the village where there was a priest who was a good friend of him for him to give me some certificate, and he wrote that my name is Efrozina Skormik. Suddenly I found out that 30 Germans were supposed to arrive for lunch, and I knew that the Germans are only coming to kill Jews. And in the restaurant once a week, a Jew would come. His name was Shumik Reinhard Shlomo, and I knew that they would kill him. I said, I have to do something about this. Dina hid Shlomo and Miriam in the attic. I hid them for 13 months. They arrived in June 1943 until July 1944. I risked my life. So what? Of course I did. I risked my life daily, but I couldn't care. After the war ended, my dream was to go to the land of Israel, to Eretz Israel. I met my husband, whose name is Yosef, and we raised a family. I have 2 sons, thank God, and I have 2 grandchildren. Regretfully, my husband died 5 years ago. I went through a lot, but I never complained in Israel, never, not even once. That's it. That's my story. May the torch be lit.
משמר דום. משמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
The 4th torch would be lit by Eliezer Eisenschmidt, born in Luna, Belarus. This is where you can see my father. His name is Yoshua ben Shalom, and this is my mother, Esther, daughter of Avraham HaKohen. This is me, Eliezer, son of Yoshua, and this is where my other brother is, Avraham. He's the youngest brother, Yaakov. And we came to Auschwitz on the 8th of December 1942, and father, mother, and my brother Yaakov were taken immediately to the gas chambers. We couldn't even give a kiss to one another. Until they opened the doors of the chambers, we didn't know what we were going to do, what awaits us. The SS men started beating us up with their clubs so that we don't even think. That moment that they opened the door and we saw those corpses, we realized what was going on there. I worked there in the gas chambers for 7 months. They needed an electrician, so I suggested that I be the one, and this is what kept me alive. When they came to me and they told me that they want to do the uprising. I said, I'm willing to take part 100%. 4 girls that worked in the factory would bring us the explosives. My role was to manufacture the hand grenades. And the uprising succeeded only because we did something. On the 18th of January 1945, they took us out to the death march. After 2 days of walking, I took advantage of a certain opportunity and I started escaping with a friend. They shot us, he was killed, and I was injured. And for 3 days I walked around in the woods, and all of a sudden I could see this lonely house. And a man came out and asked me where I was walking to, and I said, I do not know. And he said, you stay with me. You're not going anywhere. And I felt that they did something extraordinary, that they took me in. And if I'm alive, it is only thanks to them. After liberation, I met my wife, Judith, and we got married. And in June 1946, we came to Israel. We raised a family, and I have a daughter and a son and 6 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, and I want to have more. May the torch be lit.
משמר דום. משמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
5th torch would be lit by Miriam Lifcher of the Wachman home, born in Krakow, Poland. This is a ring that my mother had. It has the monogram of Manya Wadman. When I came to Auschwitz, I cried a lot and I wanted to keep that ring. And I succeeded in keeping it, and I do wear it to this very day, and I would never remove that ring from my finger. It is the only thing that I have left from my mother. And I also believe that it is through this ring the spirit of my mother protects me. I was confused. I was only 19 years old, and I didn't know where I arrived. Who knew what Auschwitz was? I was fortunate to be chosen to sort the suitcases brought by people. When we unpacked those suitcases, they taught us how to pack it very meticulously. I took a razor, because there were razors, and every object that passed through my hand, I tore it to pieces so that they don't use it. That actually gave me the sense of revenge. In 1943, I was told that they caught the Krakow underground, and I said I must sneak to see exactly who was there. Perhaps I know someone. And I went there and I found a few friends. Most of them had dysentery and diarrhea. And I remembered as a girl that they said that rice water stops diarrhea. I had rice and I brought them rice water. And some of them survived. And that gave me that gratifying feeling to my soul that I'm not just living for myself, that I'm doing things for others as well. The Germans never gave up on us. They actually made us walk in that death march, and I arrived in Bergen-Belsen camp, where I spent another 3 months. I couldn't think of going anywhere else, because right from childhood we wanted to go to Palestine. I married my husband Rudy Lipcher, and I couldn't have children, so I asked him to agree to adopt a child. This daughter is 50 years old, and I have 3 grandchildren, and I decided to have a family, and I succeeded tremendously. May the torch be lit.
משמר יעבור לדום. משמר דום. משמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
The 6th torch would be lit by Baruch Kofel, born in Ivye, Belarus. My father's name was Moshe, and my mother's name was Chasya, and we have 5 children. My father, after some 2 months that we were in the Lida ghetto, he said, Baruch, you are 19 years old, and you're the only one who can go to the Partisans. It was very difficult for me to hear that, but I understood that I must do that, because I felt that I had to do something, that I couldn't just simply wait to be led to death. It is the anthem of the Partisans that he's singing. I'm extremely proud that I was fortunate to serve in the Partisans and to revenge the Germans. Over a year and a half I spent in the brigade of Tuvia Bielski. The feeling to be a combatant was great. It really made me feel good. I thought this is exactly what my daddy wanted me to do. Tuvia Bielski, in addition to him having this athletic look, this handsome man and such a courageous man, he never feared to take upon himself women and children and elderly people and to take care of their needs. We left the woods, 1,200 people saved by Tuvia Bielski. I immigrated on the 19th of May, 1946. It was very clear to me that I was going to Eretz Israel. In 1948, I was recruited to Battalion 22. I participated in the takeover of Akko and the Western Galilee. Of course, I was a combatant. I got married when I was still a soldier in October 1949, and we've been together over 63 years. I have 3 daughters, 8 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren, and the 8th is on his way. He's got a big family. This is a glorious family that I have. May the torch be lit.
המשמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
Das Lied geschrieben ist mit Blut und nicht mit Blei. Es ist nicht kein Lied von a Fegel auf der Frei. Das heute Fakt zu welchen Fallen die gewähnt. Das Lied gesungen mit Naganas in die Hand. Das heute Fakt zu welchen Fallen die gewähnt. Das Lied gesungen mit Naganas in die Hand. שחר על יומנו אור יעל, אם הצורר יחלוף מולנו כמוצא, אך אם חלילה יאחר לבוא האור, כמו סיסמה יהיה השיר מדור לדור, אך אם חלילה יאחר לבוא האור, כמו סיסמה יהיה השיר מדור לדור.
My dear mother, nearly 2 years have passed since I have been severed from you against my will by the hands of murderers who murdered you in cold blood, you and the rest of my family members and my relatives. It is because of my young age I feel this loss very, very powerfully, and I encounter pain on every step I take. Even though I do know that never ever will you be able to answer me, respond to me, hug me, and caress me, I must talk to you. Perhaps somehow you'll be able to feel what I feel. I am your youngest son who was forced to part with you when I was almost 15 and a half. I understood that I will never rest until I see with my very own eyes the Germans paying for this separation that they forced upon us. I wanted you to know, Mommy, that since the month of May 1944, your son has been fighting an all-out war against the Germans, murderers of our people, equipped with a German gun. You should know that your son is paying to your murderers with the weapons that they themselves created. When I started fighting, I hesitated a bit, and I was fearful. Killing was foreign to me, and I found it very difficult to press the trigger and kill a human being. Can you imagine to yourself? Can you imagine your son, Koppel, shooting and killing? I do hope that you'd be very happy knowing that a few avengers stood from among our nations and that I'm one of them, that I never remained reticent seeing their hideous crimes of those Germans. I do miss your caress and your hug and your kiss. Perhaps I'm a brave fighter and a hero soldier, but in me, I'm just a lonely child. I think about you, about Moshe and Elchanan and Ida, day and night, and mostly when I fight in battle. Your figures are the ones illuminating the path of fighting. It is from your memory that I draw courage and strength. But at the end of every battle, there comes again that well-known, familiar feeling of solitude and loneliness, and the fact that I cannot share with you all that I've been through. I have no one to tell this to. You're no longer here. Your son, Koppel. Yishai Golan read the words of Koppel Kolpenitsky, born in Lachva. He escaped from the ghetto and joined the Partisans and served in the Red Army and immigrated to the land of Israel in 1946 and joined the struggle for the establishment of the state. On behalf of the Holocaust survivors, we shall now hear Ms. Eliza Vitis Shimon, member of Kibbutz Givat Oz, born in Warsaw, liaison officer in the Shomer HaTzair movement and member in the Jewish Combat Organization led by Mordechai Anilevich.
משמר, דום. משמר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח.
I speak this evening on behalf of all those who could not be here in this place and in this time, those who have gone through all the torture and whose outcry was severed in its midst, those who wrote in their blood in the train cars, "Seek revenge for our lost lives," those who were murdered, but the silence of the woods in Treblinka, Ponar, and Babi Yar surrounded them and will shriek forever. I was amongst the last ones who remained in the Warsaw Ghetto, a member in the Zionist youth movement, HaShomer HaTzair. Grave fears and rumors about the final extermination roamed the ghetto, and still we were preparing for Pesach. Ruth Hyman, who was my counselor and later on became the liaison officer of Mordechai Anilevich, told me, "You must leave the ghetto to the police side and try to save your skin. You're too young to fight. Go. Tell them how we have fought here and how we have died here in the ghetto." 3 times I was seized in the Aryan side, and 3 times I escaped because of my impudence, bribery, and my self-confidence. I was the liaison of the 2 separated parts of the ghetto. During winter nights, after the massive deportation, I climbed into attics, and in such a way, I used to move from one house to another with packages of posters on behalf of the Jewish Combat Organization. In those posters, the organization called for active resistance. We shall not again allow our blood to be spilt in vain. We shall not follow the orders of the Germans. We shall escape and we shall fight. I had to put up those posters and attach them to the walls of the houses with great cautiousness, lest somebody sees me and blows the whistle on me. Loyalty and solidarity to my movement overpowered every fear and every prohibition of my parents. I was merely 14 years and a half, and when I arrived to the place where the youngsters convened on Gensha Street, I was the happiest. At nighttime, hungry and worn out, we sang the songs of the land of Israel, in particular the song Anonymous Soldiers. Only death would free us from service. Young men and women from every pioneer youth movement, from every part of the Jewish community gamut, from the radical left to the right, that had any faith in new life in Israel, ideals of respect and love for the Jewish people, lost their lives as free people because they chose to fight against all odds. Perhaps they also wanted to save the trampled honor of their family members and their nation. Were we naive? Of course not. We believed that we must assume responsibility for the entire Jewish people. Just before the spring of 1943, people started listening to us more. Everyone knew that the end was nearing, and a spirit of combat and fighting prevailed the ghetto. The words of Mordechai Anilevich, the admired commander in the last assembly, accompanied me wherever I went. Do not forget that the worst of wars is the war against us, ourselves, not to get used and not to adapt to the humiliating conditions forced upon us by our enemy. The person who adapts no longer sees and distinguishes between good and evil. He becomes a slave in body and soul to these humiliating living conditions. Wherever you go, you should always remember, do not get used, do not adapt, and rebel against this reality. The uprising in the ghettos, the woods, and the camps was an expression of supreme heroism that influenced the sense of pride of the generation who later fought in the War of Independence. We, who were saved miraculously, did not come to Israel feeling like victims, but quite the contrary. We brought the recognition with us, the recognition that we have no other place. Perhaps that too can be called heroism, and also the hope for life that never left us, not even when we did our death march in Auschwitz and Majdanek. From our bereavement, there emerged and bloomed an immense life force. We never complained. We shut it all within us, and we tried to forget the past. We never asked for any pity, and that was not given to us either. We started talking only years later, when the people around us truly took interest in us and felt empathy toward our pain and suffering and stopped fearing him. We participated in the struggle for the establishment of the State of Israel and the wars of Israel, as well as our sons and grandchildren who continue our path. We built kibbutzim and moshavim. These were established by Holocaust survivors. We have enriched culture and science, and we have provided for ourselves and our families, and we're proud of our country. I have been given that task to tell others about the combatants, and I can find no rest until more youngsters will join the circle and carry the burden of remembrance from me and lead it forward to the next generations. Remember our people who were murdered. Remember the combatants and fighters, and protect and maintain human dignity wherever man is.
בוכה, רק אלוקים שומע, הכאב עולה מתוך הנשמה. אדם נופל לפני שהוא שוקע, בתפילה קטנה חותך את הדממה. שמע ישראל אלוקיי, אתה כל יכול, נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל. בעיניי דמעה, לב בוכה בשקט, וכשהלב שותק הנשמה זועקת. כשהלב בוכה הזמן עומד מלכת, האדם רואה את כל חייו פתאום, אלא לא נודע, הוא לא רוצה ללכת, לאלוקיו קורא על סף תהום. שמע ישראל אלוקיי, אתה כל יכול, נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל. בעיניי דמעה, לב בוכה בשקט, וכשהלב שותק הנשמה זועקת. שמע ישראל אלוקיי, עכשיו אני לבד, חזק אותי אלוקיי, עשה שלא אפחד. הכאב גדול ולאן לברוח, עשה שיגמר, כי לא נותר בי כוח. שמע ישראל אלוקיי, אתה כל יכול, נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל. בעיניי דמעה, לב בוכה בשקט, וכשהלב שותק הנשמה זועקת. שמע ישראל אלוקיי, עכשיו אני לבד, חזק אותי אלוקיי, עשה שלא אפחד. הכאב גדול ואין לאן לברוח, עשה שיגמר, כי לא נותר בי כוח. לא נותר בי כוח. שמע ישראל
פסוקי תהילים מפי הרב
Psalms will be read by Chief Rabbi, Rabbi Shlomo Amar.
הקהל מתבקש לקום.
המשמר יעבור לדום. משמר, דום.
A song, a psalm of Asaph. O God, keep not thou silence, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies are in an uproar, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They hold crafty converse against thy people, and take counsel against thy treasured ones. They have said, Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent against thee to do their make a covenant. The tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagrites, the Philistines, the Gebals and the Amnon and the Amalek, Philistia and the inhabitants of Tyre. Assyria also is joined with them. They have been an arm to the children of Lot, Selah. Do thou unto them as unto Midian, as to Sisera, and to Jabin and the brook Kishon, who were destroyed at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb and Zeb, and like Zebah and Zalmunna, all their princes, who said, Let us take to ourselves in possession the inhabitants of God. O my God, make them like the whirling dust, as stubble before the wind, as the fire that burneth the forest, and as the flame that setteth the mountains ablaze. So pursue them with thy tempest, and affright them with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Let them be ashamed and affrighted forever. Yea, let them be abashed and perish, that they may know that it is thou alone whose name is the Lord, the Most High over all the earth. Kaddish will be recited by the Chief Rabbi, Rabbi Yonah Metzger. May his great name grow exalted and sanctified in the world that he created as he willed. May he give reign to his kingship in your lifetimes and in your days, and in the lifetimes of the entire family of Israel. Swiftly and soon now say, Amen. May he be blessed, pray. May the name be blessed forever and ever, blessed and praised and glorified and exalted and extolled. Mighty are praised and lauded by the name of the Holy One. Beyond any blessing and song, praise and consolation that are uttered in the world, now say Amen. May there be abundant peace from heavens and life upon us and upon all Israel. Now say Amen. He who makes peace in his heights, may he make peace on us and upon all of Israel. Now say Amen. God full of mercy, by the cantor Aziz Schwartz. God full of mercy, who dwells on high, protector of widows, and father for the fatherless. Please grant perfect rest on the wings of your divine presence, in the lofty abode of the holy, pure and valiant, who shine as the brightness of the heavens. To the souls of our brothers and sisters, the 6 million Jewish men, women, and children. Men, women, and children who were put to death, who were slaughtered, who were burned, and buried alive, and who suffered other forms of unnatural death at the hands of the accursed Nazis and their associates. And their names wiped out in order to sanctify God's name. In paradise, their resting place shall be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, shall the Master of Mercy care for them under the protection of his wings for all time, and bind their souls in the bond of everlasting life. Their souls in the bond of everlasting life. The Lord will be their resting place. And they will come in peace and will rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
התקווה.
National Anthem, Hatikva.
דגל, שק.
So
המשמר יחטיף את נשקו. החטיף, שק.
תם הטקס. הקהל מתבקש להישאר.
The audience is requested to remain standing until the President, the Prime Minister, Speaker of the Knesset, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court have left the compound.